The message came in while I was at work, around 2:12 p.m. in the middle of a boring quarterly recap Zoom call. One of those meetings where everyone's camera is off, and the only real movement on screen is the slow creep of the progress bar on a shared slide deck. My phone buzzed. Just once. I normally ignore personal stuff during work hours, but something about this buzz pulled my eyes to the screen. Maybe it was the way it didn't come with a preview. No contact name. No subject. Just image. One attachment. I tapped it open and felt my stomach drop. It was a photo. Clean, well-lit, taken from the second-floor balcony of a restaurant I instantly recognized, the Harborview Bistro, in Boston. Kayla and I had been there once on a weekend trip. Waterfront seating, dim golden lights strung above, the sound of soft jazz in the background. That place had memories. But this photo wasn't one of those memories. Not mine. It was Kayla, my wife, wearing a dark green evening dress, tight at the waist, open-backed, elegant in a way that screamed deliberate. She held a cocktail in her right hand, her head tilted just slightly back in laughter. And seated beside her was a man I didn't recognize. Mid-30s, I'd guess, his hair slicked back. One of his sleeves was pushed up casually, exposing a luxury watch. Her left hand rested lightly on his shoulder, as if it had been there for a while. Their knees were almost touching beneath the table. You could see the slight lean of their posture. Familiar, close, private. The caption beneath the image was short, just 5 words. Do you know about this? No name, no sender photo. The account was a generic Facebook profile, the kind you make when you don't want to be traced. No posts, no friends, just that one message. And the timestamp? That photo was taken the exact night Kayla told me she had a late investment client meeting that couldn't be moved. I'd even offered to drive her. She brushed it off with a peck on the cheek and said she'd be too stressed for company. That night, she came home after 11, kicked off her heels at the door, and complained about how awful the meeting had gone. They're trying to pitch an unstable portfolio with a straight face, she said while reaching for a glass of wine. Total waste of time. She'd smiled, told me she was starving, said she hated how those meetings always left her feeling like she needed a shower. I even warmed up leftovers for her. We watched half an episode of some show, then went to bed like it was just another long day. But now, looking at that photo, something in me snapped. Quietly, no big explosion, just a shift, like a table leg cracking under pressure. I sat frozen at my desk, that image burning into my brain like an afterimage from a flashbulb. I stared at the details. Her earrings, her clutch purse on the table, the way her wrist curled slightly on the man's shoulder, not like it just landed there, but like it belonged. I even zoomed in on the drink, same one she always ordered when she wanted to feel classy. Gin, cucumber, touch of basil. There was nothing accidental about this photo. Still, part of me didn't want to believe it. Part of me started building excuses faster than I could destroy them. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe she really did just run into someone she knew. Maybe someone took the picture and edited it to look suspicious. Maybe this was some elaborate misunderstanding and the person who sent it just wanted to stir the pot. But I couldn't shake one thing. The calm in her face. She didn't look surprised to be there. She looked like she belonged there. Like this man, whoever he was not new. My chest tightened, but I said nothing to anyone. Not to my coworkers. Not even to myself. I locked my phone, forced myself to sit through the rest of the Zoom meeting, and when it ended, I went through the motions of work like I wasn't dying inside. That evening, I didn't bring it up immediately. I wanted to give her space to lie if she was going to. She came home around 6:30, hair tied back. No signs of distress. She kicked her shoes off at the door, walked into the kitchen like she had nothing to hide, and asked if we still had that butternut squash soup left from earlier in the week. I nodded, heart pounding in my throat. She leaned against the fridge, scrolled on her phone, and casually asked about my day. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held up the image. Her eyes flicked to it for a second, then a beat longer. "Oh," she said, eyebrows raised. "Where'd you get that?" I shrugged. "Someone sent it." She leaned in, studied it like she was just now remembering. "Oh yeah, that's Kevin." She smiled like it was funny. "He's an old friend. Ran into him after that client meeting. We were both starving, so we grabbed drinks and a bite. Totally random." "From Boston?" I asked. "Yeah," she said, still smiling. "That's Harborview, right? You remember that place. Didn't expect to run into anyone I knew there. But hey, small world." Her tone was light, natural, like she wasn't caught off guard, like she rehearsed this already. I didn't say anything at first, just looked at the photo again, her hand on his shoulder. "Was this before or after your meeting?" I asked. She took a sip from the glass of water she'd poured and tilted her head like she was doing the math. "After. Around 10ish. Why?" "Just looks cozy," I said carefully. She laughed. "Oh, come on. I haven't seen the guy in years. You know how I get when I drink gin too fast? I talk with my hands. Probably looks way worse than it was." She walked over, took the phone gently from my hand, and looked at the photo again. "I get how this looks. But trust me, babe, it was nothing. Just dinner and catching up." I looked at her for a long moment, and she just looked back. Unblinking, smiling, unafraid. "I'd tell you if it was something," she said. "You know that." I nodded slowly, said nothing more. And that was the moment I knew something was wrong. Not because of the photo, but because of how easy the lie was. How smooth it rolled off her tongue. How she didn't flinch, didn't stammer, didn't even reach for some half-truth to soften the edges. She lied the way someone lies when they've been doing it long enough to forget the fear of being caught. That night, she curled up next to me in bed like always. Asked if I wanted to start the new season of the show we'd been waiting on. I said I was tired. She kissed my shoulder and said, "Love you," before rolling over. And I said it back, even though I barely recognized my own voice. But while she fell asleep in minutes, breathing soft and even, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, that image replaying in my mind like a looping reel. That wasn't just a drink after work. That wasn't a coincidence. That wasn't just Kevin. And the worst part? She knew I knew, and she didn't care. It's strange how one moment can infect every other memory before it. How a single lie, once exposed, shines a new light on everything that came before it. That photo had cracked something open inside me, and I couldn't seal it back shut, no matter how much I wanted to believe her. The next morning, Kayla was already up when I came downstairs. She was in the kitchen, pouring coffee, humming to herself like nothing had happened. She asked if I wanted eggs or just toast, and I said toast. She kissed my cheek, told me to have a good day, and I left the house with a pit in my stomach that hadn't been there before. By the time I got to work, I had already opened the photo 3 times, studied it like evidence, noticed new things every time. The way her eyes were angled toward him, the way her leg curled slightly toward his under the table, the missing wedding ring subtle but unmistakable. Maybe it was an old picture? I tried that angle again. But no, her nails were painted in that same deep mauve color she had just picked up last week. She made a big deal out of it. Said it made her feel sharp. That was the word she used. Sharp. I tried to work, but my brain wouldn't stop rewinding. It wasn't just the photo. It was the things I had shrugged off the last few months. The changes I convinced myself were just part of married life. Stress. Busy schedules. Burnout. All the things we tell ourselves when we don't want to admit we're losing someone. Like the phone. Kayla used to leave hers charging on the kitchen counter at night. She used to toss it in the passenger seat, face up, unlocked. We had each other's passcodes, nothing hidden, nothing secret. But lately, she started locking it, changing her passcode. When I asked why, she smiled and said her firm was cracking down on security protocols. Client confidentiality, she added, with that same warm chuckle she always used when she wanted me to stop asking questions. I remember that moment clearly now because I believed her. Then the laptop. She got a new one for work, supposedly. But she stopped using the shared desktop completely. Said it was easier to keep everything in one place. It stayed in her tote bag when she wasn't home. Never left it out. And when she worked at home, she sat with her back to the door, screen angled away. One night, I got up to grab water and saw her quickly slam the lid shut when she noticed me behind her. She smiled again. "Just spreadsheets," she said. "Mind-numbingly boring. Didn't want to bore you to death." That was about 2 months ago. And then there were the small things. Her perfume changed. She used to wear floral notes, light, sweet, forgettable. Then one evening she came home smelling spicy. Strong. Couldn't place it. Not floral, not sweet. Bold. Like something a man would wear. I asked her about it and she laughed. "You know those testers in department stores? I accidentally sprayed one while looking for a gift for my boss." I nodded. I even smiled. She kissed me and said, "Don't worry. I still prefer vanilla." Then walked into the bathroom with her phone still in hand. It was like every thread I pulled started unraveling something else. I thought about that Atlanta trip. It was supposed to be 3 days. Kayla said she'd be staying at the Hyatt near the convention center, attending strategy meetings for a new fund. She sent me a few photos, her view from the hotel, a dinner plate with salmon, one blurry selfie with a coworker I didn't recognize. I texted her late one night just to say I missed her, and she responded with, "Client call. Can't talk right now. Love you." But a week later, I found a boarding pass tucked into one of the books she kept in the laundry room. Kayla always read during flights. I don't know why I opened the book, but I did. The ticket wasn't for Atlanta. It was for Chicago. One way. Same date. Same time. Different city. When I asked her about it, calmly, carefully, she didn't miss a beat. "Oh, that? Long layover. Flight got changed last minute because of storms. I forgot to tell you." She even pulled up an email confirmation on her phone to show me. I don't remember exactly what it said, but I remember feeling stupid, like I had been paranoid. That feeling stuck with me. I started making a list, not on paper, just in my head. A mental catalog of all the little red flags I had ignored. The new lingerie that she claimed was on sale, but was still sitting in the bag. Tags on, never worn for me. The way she laughed too hard at her phone when I was sitting beside her, then quickly clicked her screen off. The time she came home from yoga, wearing jeans and makeup. The sudden change in music preferences. She used to hate jazz. Now she streamed it while cooking. "It calms me," she said. The way she stopped asking me about my day, or about anything. And then there was the night she canceled our date night. We had a reservation at the same place we went to for our anniversary the year before. I'd made the reservation a month in advance. She called me at 4:47 p.m. and said, "I'm so sorry. I can't make it. Something came up. It's nothing serious. Just, can we do it next week?" I told her it was fine. I ordered Chinese. Ate alone on the couch. At the time, I believed her. But now I wondered if something came up was code for someone. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but when you start connecting dots, the picture becomes hard to ignore. I wasn't looking for proof. I was looking for reasons not to believe what I already suspected. And I was running out of those. One night, after she fell asleep, I got up and stood in the doorway of our room. Just watched her. Her breathing was steady. One arm flung over the pillow. Hair messy. She looked like the same woman I married. But I didn't recognize her. I missed her voice before it turned calculated. Missed the way she used to reach for my hand when we walked through the city. The way she used to rest her head on my shoulder during movies and whisper, "Stay like this forever." Now she barely touched me unless I touched her first. I remembered asking her once, half joking, if she ever got tired of me. She laughed and said, "Are you fishing for reassurance?" And I said, "Maybe." And she said, "Scott, please, you're solid. The one thing I don't have to worry about." At the time, I felt comforted. Now, those words felt like a coffin lid closing. I started sleeping lighter, listening for things I didn't used to pay attention to. The clicks of her phone, the vibration of messages late at night, the water running in the bathroom for too long, the scent of mint and cologne on her scarf. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just watched, collected. Made mental notes like I was building a case against someone I loved. Some nights, I'd sit in the living room with the lights off after she went to bed. Just sat there, feeling like a stranger in my own house. I'd scroll through my old photos, our vacations, birthdays, selfies where she clung to my arm like she never wanted to let go. I tried to remember what it felt like to believe in all of it. But I couldn't. And then came the moment I realized I didn't want to catch her. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted there to be a perfectly logical explanation for all of it. Because the alternative meant that the life we built, every dinner, every joke, every lazy Sunday in sweatpants was one-sided. Or worse, a lie. But deep down, I already knew. There was a version of me that still hoped it was just paranoia. But another version, the quieter, colder part, had already started grieving the marriage before it was even over. They say when you finally see the truth, it doesn't scream. It whispers. And I guess that's what this part of the story was. It didn't come in the form of some dramatic confrontation or a caught-in-the-act moment. It was just subtle, ordinary even. But once it happened, I couldn't unsee anything anymore. After weeks of carrying around that photo like a splinter under my skin, I decided I couldn't keep living in that half place anymore. The space between doubt and confirmation was eating me alive. I needed to know. Needed something, anything that wasn't a maybe. Not just the mounting circumstantial weirdness or Kayla's perfectly timed explanations. I wanted something undeniable. And so, I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I made a reservation. At that restaurant. The one from the photo. The Harborview Bistro in Boston, the scene of the crime. Or, at least, the scene of something. I booked the same night of the week as the photo, Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Under a generic name. I requested the balcony specifically and asked if we could be seated near the waterfront edge, facing the harbor. The hostess on the phone said, "Absolutely. That's actually one of our most popular tables. We'll try our best to accommodate." I thanked her, my stomach in knots the entire time. When I asked Kayla if she wanted to go out for dinner that night, she didn't hesitate. She didn't ask where. She just smiled. "God, yes. I need something nice. This week has been hell." "Anywhere in mind?" I asked, testing the waters. She paused, pretended to think. "Somewhere with cocktails. And those little appetizer spoons. You know I like tiny bites." "How about Harborview?" Her eyebrows lifted, but only slightly. "Oh wow. Haven't been there in forever. Good memory." She smiled. "Sounds perfect. No hesitation. No flicker of panic." And that scared me more than anything. The night of the dinner, I wore a navy blazer. Nothing fancy, just enough to blend in. Kayla came downstairs in the same green dress from the photo. I'm not even joking. The same dress. When she saw me waiting by the door, she twirled once like she was being cute and said, "Still fits like a glove." I smiled, lied with my eyes, told her she looked beautiful. Inside, I was screaming. We drove in silence for most of the ride. The GPS said 32 minutes with traffic. She scrolled on her phone. I watched the road. Every stoplight felt like it lasted a year. When we arrived, the hostess greeted us with the kind of tone reserved for regulars. She looked at Kayla and smiled. "Welcome back. Oh." She looked at the reservation list. "Sorry, you're under. Scott tonight?" I froze. Kayla froze harder. The hostess looked confused for only a second, then shifted into professional mode. "Right this way." Kayla said nothing. As we followed the hostess to our table, the same table from the photo, I felt the air between us change. Just slightly. Like she knew what this was. The view was stunning, just like I remembered. Warm lights, soft chatter. The water reflecting the golden glow of the skyline. Could have been romantic. Could have been one of those nights we told stories about years later. Instead, it was a trap. And I had laid it. Kayla opened her menu, said something about oysters, but her voice sounded far away. My hands were sweating. My jaw ached from keeping my mouth shut. Then the waitress came. Young, blonde, cheerful, too cheerful. She greeted us with a rehearsed line, then looked at Kayla and smiled like they knew each other. "Oh, you were here last month, right?" Sorry, just remembered the dress. You had it on then, too. I was your server, I think. Kayla blinked, then smiled. Maybe? I don't think so. You must have me confused with someone. Oh, aha. Maybe, the waitress said, clearly not convinced. We get a lot of couples up here. It's hard to keep track. My throat closed around the word couples. Kayla just kept smiling. After she left, I looked at Kayla. She avoided my eyes, focused on the wine list like it was the most fascinating document in the world. And then, quietly, I reached into my jacket pocket and slid the receipt across the table. She looked at it like it was a joke. It wasn't. The receipt was from the night of the photo. I had called earlier that week, told them I had misplaced a credit card statement, and asked if they could pull a copy of the bill from that Thursday night. The woman I spoke to was polite, even helpful. She emailed it the same day. Cocktails for 2. Shared charcuterie board. 2 desserts. 1 decaf espresso. Tip included. Name on the reservation. Kevin Lawson. I had printed it, folded it clean, placed it right there between us like a final exam. When she saw it, I watched something break in her face. Just a flicker. Just long enough to tell me she wasn't going to lie anymore. But she still tried. What's this? I didn't speak. Her fingers touched the receipt like it might burn her. She scanned it, blinked, and then leaned back slowly. Then, finally, she looked me in the eyes. You went to a lot of trouble for this. Still no panic. No outrage. Just weariness. Was that his name? I asked quietly. She said nothing. The silence between us stretched. The clinking of glasses, the laugh from another table, the sound of a cork being popped somewhere behind us. It all felt like it came from another universe. I told you it was just dinner, she said finally, and you didn't believe me. So here we are. I leaned in. You wore that dress. She didn't deny it. You were at this table. Still nothing. You told me you were in a meeting. She looked out over the water. I did. You lied. At that, she nodded. Once. Just a slight dip of the head. Not an apology, just an admission. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding for weeks. Then I reached into my coat pocket again. This time, I pulled out a business envelope. Inside, a printed copy of our phone records from that night. Her call to me at 6:57 p.m. Her call to Kevin at 6:41. Another one at 9:17. A text exchange that lasted until just before midnight. A pattern I had learned to recognize. I didn't slide the envelope to her. I just whispered, my treat, and my exit. Kayla's expression didn't crumble. She didn't cry or beg. She didn't shout. She just sat there, the receipt still beneath her hand, and stared out at the harbor, like she already knew this moment was coming. When the waitress returned to take our order, she sensed the tension instantly. She paused, opened her mouth, then closed it, offered to give us a few more minutes. We didn't stop her. I stood up, slowly. I didn't want a scene. Kayla didn't move. As I walked out, I felt 1,000 things at once. Relief, sadness, grief, rage, but mostly, certainty. The kind that's cold and clean and final. I didn't know exactly where I was going that night, but I knew I wasn't coming back. And Kayla? She didn't try to stop me, because she knew. That was the moment everything stopped pretending to be okay, and started being real. The night at Harborview was the end of something. I could feel it in my bones, even before the door closed behind me. Something in our marriage had snapped, clean and final. I didn't go home that night. I drove without a destination, windows down, radio off, letting the silence roar louder than anything on the airwaves. At some point, I ended up at a 24-hour diner, ordered coffee I didn't drink, and sat there until the sun came up. I wasn't ready to go home to her. Not yet. Not after everything. When I did eventually return, maybe around 7 a.m. Kayla was sitting at the kitchen table in her robe, mug in hand. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her laptop was open in front of her, but the screen was dark. She didn't look up when I came in. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. I went upstairs, packed a gym bag, just enough for a few days, and walked back out. It was like we were playing roles in a silent play. No fighting, no sobbing, no begging. Just a quiet understanding that whatever we had been pretending was still intact. Wasn't. I crashed at my friend Dave's place that week. Told him the basics. He didn't press for details, didn't judge. Just handed me a beer and said, "Whatever you need, man." I didn't need much. Just space. Time. A couch. A place where nothing reminded me of the smell of her shampoo or the way her heels sounded on the stairs. But things didn't stay quiet for long. 2 days after the restaurant, I got an email. No subject line. No message body. Just an attached video file and the words, "You should see this." I almost didn't open it. Thought maybe it was spam. But the curiosity, the dread, got the better of me. I clicked. It was video footage, grainy but clear enough. Looked like it came from some kind of internal camera, security footage maybe. The setting was familiar in that generic corporate way. Overhead lights, background chatter, suits and dresses milling around. Some kind of event. Company party. Kayla was there. In a fitted black cocktail dress. Hair up. Holding a glass of champagne. She was standing at the edge of the bar. Laughing. Relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. And beside her, Kevin. Same guy from the photo. Same posture, same confident lean. Only now there was no photo to hide behind. This wasn't out of context. This was context. She touched his hand lightly, leaned in, whispered something into his ear, and he laughed. She reached up and smoothed something off his shoulder. Lint maybe, or just an excuse to touch him. And then she kissed him. Not full on, not messy. Just a kiss on the cheek. But long enough to say everything. Long enough for people to notice. I paused the video, rewound it, watched the moment again. Her hand on his chest. His smirk. The way she looked around the room just before it happened. Like she was checking if anyone was watching, and then doing it anyway. This wasn't a drunken mistake. This wasn't impulsive. This was comfort. Familiarity. I sat there, staring at the screen. My jaw locked so tight it hurt. My heart didn't race, it dropped. Like it was sinking steadily and permanently, somewhere below where it had lived before. It wasn't just what I saw, it was what it meant. This was inside her company. On camera. At an event. Among peers. This wasn't some private little bubble. This was a world she thought I'd never see. Where she was someone else entirely. I didn't know who had sent me the video. There was no traceable email. Just a burner Gmail account. But someone had wanted me to see it. And I had a feeling it wasn't just about me. A few hours later, I got another message. This time from someone I did recognize, a former coworker of Kayla's. Just a short note. "You should probably know this is all over the office chat. People are talking. HR's going to get involved." I stared at that sentence for a long time. She hadn't said a word about it. Not to me. And that silence, it told me more than anything else. She knew the fallout had started. And she wasn't going to warn me. Later that day, I checked LinkedIn. I don't know why, maybe curiosity, maybe instinct. Kayla's profile was still active. Still listed her as Senior Investment Strategy Consultant. Still had the smiling hedge *T she'd taken last spring. But the activity tab was quiet. No recent updates. No posts. No reactions. The silence after the storm. By the third day, things got worse. Another message came in, this time a screenshot *T. It was from her company's anonymous group chat. Apparently, they had a Slack channel unofficially dubbed the After Hours Lounge. No names. Just aliases and emojis. The screenshot *T showed a link to the video. And under it, dozens of comments. Some were jokes. "Guess we know why client meetings run late." Risk management? More like relationship management. Others were meaner. "Wonder how many guys she's networked with like that. She's always acted too perfect. Karma's efficient." And a few were just stunned. "Wow, I thought she was married. That's gonna be HR hell." I sat there, feeling something I didn't know how to name. It wasn't satisfaction. It wasn't pity either. It was like watching a fire spread from a spark I didn't start. but couldn't put out either. By the fourth day, the silence from Kayla was louder than ever. No calls, no texts, no explanations, not even a half-hearted defense. And then, on the morning of the fifth day, I got a final message. From her. Just a single line. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. Not because I was trying to punish her, but because I didn't know what there was left to say. That afternoon, a friend of mine who worked in the same building as Kayla's firm texted me. "Her badge didn't scan this morning. Think they locked her out." By evening, that rumor was confirmed. Kayla's corporate account was suspended. Her name no longer appeared in the company directory. Her calendar was wiped clean. Her profile page on the firm's website redirected to an error. Just like that, she'd been erased. I imagined her sitting at her home office desk, same one she used for client calls, refreshing her screen, waiting for the network to let her in again, watching the cursor spin, wondering how quickly everything could fall apart. The irony? It hadn't been me who exposed her. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't even told anyone outside a few close friends. The fallout came from inside. Her own world. Her colleagues, her network, the people who watched it unfold in real time and decided this wasn't going to stay quiet. That's what hit me the hardest. It wasn't just that she had betrayed me. It's that she had gambled her reputation, her image, her carefully curated mask, and lost. Badly. She'd built her entire professional identity on being polished, disciplined, the one who never cracked. Clients trusted her. Juniors looked up to her. She'd always said that integrity was her currency. Now, all of that was gone. Not because I blew the whistle, but because someone else saw the truth and didn't look away. I didn't see her again until the sixth day. Not really see her. I had gone back to the house a few times. Grabbed a few clothes, my electric razor, the folder of bank documents I'd left in the hall closet. But I never stayed more than 10 minutes. If she was home, she stayed upstairs. If she wasn't, I moved faster. But on that sixth day, I came back early in the morning. I still had a drawer full of work shirts. Thought maybe I'd wash them, or maybe I just wanted to see if she'd look me in the eye. When I walked in, the house was dark, blinds still shut. She was in the kitchen. Same island where we used to drink coffee and argue over brunch plans. Only now she sat there completely still, no coffee, no phone, no laptop. Just her, staring out the small window above the sink. She looked up when I walked in, but didn't speak. I nodded once, polite as a stranger, and walked past her. She didn't ask where I'd been. She already knew not to. Upstairs, I grabbed the shirts, tossed them into a laundry bag, and paused at the bedroom door. It was open. The bed was made, but not the way she used to do it. No throw pillows, no fold at the edge of the blanket. Just flat and gray, like a hotel bed no one wanted to sleep in. There was a folded document on her nightstand. I didn't touch it, but I saw the header, Human Resources Department Notice of Pending Termination Review. I walked out before I read more. That was the day her confidence cracked. She didn't say it out loud. She didn't beg or shout or try to explain. But I saw it in her posture. Saw it in how she pulled her knees up in the kitchen chair and hugged them, like she was trying to shrink down to a version of herself that could slip through the cracks. By then, her name was already gone from the company roster. The party video had made it outside the building. Some anonymous blog had picked it up and posted a *T with a headline that read, "When personal misconduct becomes a financial liability, a case study in reputational collapse." There was no name in the article, no company mentioned, but the photo said enough. A frozen moment of her hand on Kevin's chest, her face too close to his, her eyes squinting in a smile that had become infamous to everyone who recognized her. And Kevin? He wasn't even mentioned. Just the male colleague. That's how it always is, right? By the seventh day, Kayla stopped pretending she was working. She still dressed like she had somewhere to be. Tight navy suits, crisp white blouses, nude lipstick, heels tapping softly on the hardwood. But instead of driving to the office, she paced from one room to another, laptop in hand, phone against her ear, talking to no one. I caught her rehearsing once, in the upstairs hallway. Ambiguous circumstances. she said aloud to no one. There were no internal guidelines in place. The relationship was professional. The video was misleading. I was unaware of being recorded. My personal conduct did not violate the code. She trailed off, whispered, "Come on, come on," like she was trying to will the right words into her mouth. I didn't interrupt. I just kept walking down the stairs. When I left that day, I heard the front door lock behind me. For the first time in a long time, I realized she wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of the world outside. That night, she sent me a text. "If someone from your side shared that video, I need to know. Legal's asking." I didn't reply, not because I was being cruel, but because that text told me everything I needed to know about where her head was. Even now, it wasn't about what she did. It was about who saw it. The next morning, a courier dropped off a thick manila envelope. I wasn't there to see it, but Dave got the security alert on his doorbell cam. Kayla signed for it. Her handwriting looked smaller than usual. Later, I found out what was inside. The final termination letter. Effective immediately. Dismissal due to conduct deemed damaging to corporate reputation and incompatible with client-facing responsibilities. There was a clause about severance being withheld pending internal investigation. Another about possible civil exposure if the incident resulted in client attrition. No polite signatures. Just black text on stiff white paper. She didn't tell me. I saw the letter sitting on the dining table during a stop-in. Next to it was her work badge, 2 keycards, and a business card for a crisis PR firm. I flipped the card over. A handwritten note in blue ink said, "Can spin it. Call me by Thursday." She didn't. On the 8th day, I watched her cry for the first time. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just quiet tears in the dark. She was sitting in the kitchen again. Same spot. Lights off. Blinds open just enough to let the glow from the street lamps in. Her face was turned toward the window, like she was waiting for someone to knock on the glass. Her makeup was still on, smudged at the corners. Her heels were on the floor beside her chair. One foot tucked under her, the other resting on its side like she'd given up halfway through taking them off. She didn't see me standing in the hall. I watched her shoulders shake. Her hand curled tightly into her robe. She wiped at her face with her wrist like a child. And in that moment, I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel anything. Just done. Like I had reached the end of a movie I thought I was starring in, only to realize I was barely a supporting character. She never looked over. Never asked if I wanted to talk. Never tried to spin it one last time. That silence was the only honest thing left between us. The next morning, she was already dressed when I came down to grab my last few things. A slate gray pantsuit. Hair twisted into a bun so tight it looked painful. Minimal jewelry. She looked like she was on her way to court. I guess in a way she was leaving for good? She asked. I nodded. She didn't follow up. Just poured herself a glass of water and stared at the wall. When I walked out the door, I left a few things behind. A copy of the divorce petition, printed call logs, 3 emails, a list of bank transactions I knew she couldn't explain. I stacked them neatly on the table. No note, no post-it, just a paper trail. I figured that was enough. Later that night, I got a text from a mutual friend. Someone who worked in consulting, different firm, same circle. Saw the clip. Didn't know things were that bad. You okay? I stared at the message for a while, then just typed, yeah, finally. That's what it felt like. Not revenge. Not victory. Just release. She lost everything trying to hide one thing. And I walked away with nothing but still felt like I'd won. A week later, I packed my things for good. Left the house we'd built together with nothing but a duffel bag and a folder of documents. Divorce papers, bank records, proof. I didn't leave a note. Didn't slam the door. I just set everything on the table and walked out. Kayla didn't call. She didn't chase me. She didn't say a word. The video from the party eventually made it to an industry blog. They didn't name her, but anyone in the know knew. She tried logging into her work portal the next morning. Locked out. HR sent a final email. You are no longer part of the organization. That night, She sat at the kitchen table, hugging herself like it might keep her from falling apart. No tears, just silence, stillness, like she knew. This wasn't punishment. It wasn't exile. It was erasure. Friday morning, she dressed for work like always. Pressed blazer, polished heels, hair pulled back like a mask. But by noon, a courier dropped off an envelope. No return address, just her name. Inside was a severance reversal letter and a single handwritten line. You embarrassed the only person who never betrayed you. She read it twice, folded it slowly, didn't cry, didn't react, just placed it on the counter and stood there in silence, like a spotlight had gone out and no one called cut. By then, I had moved 3 states away. New apartment, new job, new number. People knew me by my name, not as that woman's husband. For the first time in years, I was something else. Free.